Ethan Cole looked out the viewport as the transport ship approached Celestial Academy. The space station was huge, a spinning wheel of gleaming metal with crystal domes that caught the light of Proxima Centauri. His heart beat faster. After months of tests, paperwork, and medical checks, he was finally here, the first human accepted to the Galactic Union's most elite school. He clutched his acceptance letter, now wrinkled from being read hundreds of times. Earth, Class 12. Deathworld. Human applicant approved with special conditions. The classification still made him smile. Back home in Kansas, Earth just seemed normal. Who knew that the planet's gravity, weather, and wildlife made it one of the most dangerous places in mapped space? Preparing for docking, announced the ship's AI. All passengers secure belongings. Ethan checked his bag one last time. Just clothes, some books, and a few items from home, including a baseball his dad had given him. Nothing special to him, but probably strange to aliens who had never seen a human before. The ship docked with a soft bump. Ethan stood and straightened his jacket, trying to look calm despite his racing heart. The doors opened with a hiss of air, and he stepped out into his new life. The docking area was filled with students of all shapes, sizes, and colors. Some floated, some crawled, others walked on various numbers of legs. Ethan had studied the main species, but seeing them in person still shocked him. A group of tall, blue-skinned aliens with 4 arms moved past him, talking in musical tones. Small floating orbs that he recognized as Lumidari pulsed with gentle light as they communicated. In the corner, a group of plant-like Florians extended, their leaf-like appendages in what his orientation materials said was a formal greeting. Every conversation stopped when Ethan entered the main hall. Hundreds of alien eyes turned to stare at him. "The human is here," whispered someone, the translator in Ethan's ear converting the words. "A real deathworlder," said another voice. Ethan tried to smile, which his cultural advisor had warned might look threatening to some species. He lowered his eyes and raised a hand in a small wave instead. The crowd parted as a tall figure approached. It moved on 6 spindly legs, with a body covered in soft blue fur. 2 large eyes blinked independently of each other. "Welcome to Celestial Academy, Mr. Cole. I am Professor Zilk, head of interspecies relations and your faculty advisor." The professor's voice sounded like rustling leaves through the translator. "Please, follow me to your quarters." As they walked through the halls, Ethan noticed students moving away, pressing themselves against walls to avoid getting too close. "Professor?" Ethan asked quietly. "Why is everyone so afraid of me?" Professor Zilk's eye stalks swiveled to look at him. "Mr. Cole, you come from a world with gravity 3 times our standard. Your bones are dense enough to sink in our heaviest liquids. Your muscles can generate force that would tear most of our students apart. And your species evolved as persistent predators who hunt by chasing prey until it collapses from exhaustion." The professor paused. "Imagine if a creature made of stone and steel walked into your school. That is how they see you." Ethan frowned. "But I'm just a normal kid." "Normal for Earth?" Zilk corrected. "Here, you are extraordinary, and that can be frightening." The professor stopped at a door. "These are your quarters. They've been modified to Earth standard gravity in the sleeping area. Classes begin tomorrow at first light." Professor Zilk turned to leave. Then Pathan woke up to soft blue light slowly brightening in his room. For a moment, he forgot where he was. Then he remembered. Celestial Academy. Thousands of light years from Earth. Today was his first day of classes. He got ready quickly, putting on the standard academy uniform that had been modified for human anatomy. The material felt strange against his skin, almost like it was responding to his body temperature. Ethan checked his schedule on the small device the academy had given him. First class, interspecies biology. He took a deep breath and stepped out of his room. The hallway was busy with students rushing to their classes. As soon as Ethan appeared, a clear path formed in front of him. No one wanted to get too close to the deathworlder. Room 307. Ethan muttered to himself, trying to ignore the stares and whispers. He found the classroom and paused at the door, Inside, about 20 students of various species sat at curved desks that formed a semicircle around a central platform. When Ethan entered, all conversation stopped. The silence was heavy. "Ah, our new human student," said the teacher, a tall, willowy creature with translucent skin, through which Ethan could see multiple hearts beating. "I am Professor Mila. Please, take the desk we prepared for you." Ethan saw one desk that looked sturdier than the others, set slightly apart from the rest. He walked over and sat down, feeling the reinforced chair adjust to his weight. "Today," Professor Mila began, "we will study the adaptations of species from various gravity environments. And it seems we have a perfect example with us." Ethan felt his face grow warm as every eye in the room turned to him. Humans come from a high-gravity world with extreme temperature variations, high oxygen levels, and dangerous fauna, Professor Mila continued. Their bodies evolved accordingly. "Mr. Cole, would you mind standing for a moment?" Ethan stood uncomfortably. "Note the dense bone structure, the powerful muscles, and the efficient respiratory system," Professor Mila said, as if Ethan were a specimen in a jar. "Humans can exert force that would tear most of our muscles, survive impacts that would shatter our bones, and continue physical activity long after most species would collapse from exhaustion." A small, glowing orb floated closer to Ethan. Unlike the others, it didn't seem afraid. "Is it true humans can break rock with their bare hands?" the orb asked, its light pulsing with each word. "Well, not exactly," Ethan said, relieved that someone was actually talking to him. "Some humans can break certain kinds of boards or bricks, but it takes training." "Fascinating," the orb glowed brighter. "I'm Lumi, by the way." Ethan, he smiled, then remembered to keep his teeth hidden. "Mr. Cole," Professor Mila interrupted, "is it true that humans deliberately raise their body temperature and induce water loss as recreation?" Ethan blinked. "You mean exercise?" "They call it working out or sports," Professor Mila explained to the class. "They deliberately stress their bodies to increase muscle density." The students murmured in what sounded like horror. "It's not that bad," Ethan tried to explain. "It's fun, actually. Pain as entertainment," a four-armed blue alien whispered. "Deathworlders are insane." The class continued with more uncomfortable questions about human biology. By the end, Ethan felt like a zoo animal. As they were leaving, Lumi floated beside him. "Sorry about that," Lumi said. "First contact is always awkward." "You're not afraid of me?" Ethan asked. "Lumidari are curious by nature," Lumi pulsed gently. "Besides, I've studied Earth broadcasts. Your species makes interesting art." Before Ethan could respond, a message flashed on everyone's devices. "Important announcement," Ethan read aloud. "All students must report to the gymnasium tomorrow for mandatory physical education assessment." Physical education? Lumi's light dimmed slightly. "Oh, this should be interesting." Ethan looked around at the fragile alien students and felt a knot form in his stomach. Tomorrow was going to be complicated used. "One more thing, Mr. Cole. You are not just a student here. You are Earth's first ambassador to the younger species of the galaxy. How you behave will shape how humans are viewed for generations." With Thumbri, that the professor walked away, 6 legs moving in perfect rhythm. Ethan stepped into his new room and let the door close behind him. He sat on the bed, suddenly feeling the weight of entire worlds on his shoulders. "No pressure," he whispered to himself. "No pressure at all." Ethan stood outside the gymnasium doors, his heart beating fast. Around him, alien students whispered and glanced his way. No one wanted to stand too close. "Ready for this?" Lumi floated beside him, glowing a friendly blue. "Not really," Ethan admitted. "I don't want to scare anyone." The doors slid open. The gym was huge, with a ceiling that rose at least 30 feet high. Strange equipment filled the room. Some looked like climbing frames, others like pools of shimmering liquid. In one corner, things that looked like balls of different sizes floated in midair. A stocky alien with thick red skin and 4 muscular arms approached. A silver whistle hung around his thick neck. "I am Coach Draz," the alien announced. "Today, we assess physical capabilities for proper training groups." His eyes narrowed at Ethan. "You must be the human." Ethan nodded. "We have concerns," Coach Draz said. "Your file suggests your capabilities exceed our safety protocols." "I'll be careful, sir," Ethan promised. Coach Draz did not look convinced. "You will participate in modified tests only. Safety first." The assessment began with basic stretching exercises. Even these caused alarm when the aliens saw how Ethan could bend and twist. Next came jumping tests, where students had to leap from platform to platform. The platforms were set at different heights to account for different species. "Human," Coach Draz called. "Use the low-gravity platforms only." Ethan stepped onto a platform marked with a blue symbol. He jumped to the next one easily. Too easily. Even holding back, he sailed through the air with more force than intended. "Perhaps even lower gravity," Coach Draz muttered, adjusting some controls. "Try these." The yellow platforms were meant for species from extremely low-gravity worlds. Ethan tried again, carefully controlling his strength. Still, he moved too quickly, too powerfully. "Just how strong are humans?" asked a small green alien with wide eyes. "It's not that I'm particularly strong," Ethan tried to explain. "It's just that Earth's gravity is about 3 times what's standard here." The alien students looked at him in disbelief. "3 times?" someone whispered. "They live like that all the time?" Coach Draz pointed to the weight assessment area. "Let's try this instead." The area had various objects designed to test lifting strength. Each was clearly marked with colored bands indicating safety levels for different species. "Lift only the items with green bands," Coach Draz instructed Ethan. "Those are safe for all species." Ethan picked up a green-banded weight. It felt like it was made of foam. "Is this right?" he asked. "It feels almost empty." Coach Draz looked troubled. "That unit weighs 5 standard units. Try a yellow one, but be very careful." Ethan set down the green weight and moved to a yellow-banded sphere. He lifted it with one hand. It was heavier, but still very light to him. "This isn't much harder," he said. The gym had gone completely silent. Every student was staring at him. "That is designed for heavy world species," Coach Draz said quietly. "It weighs 25 standard units." Curious now, Ethan glanced at an orange-banded weight. "May I?" he asked. Coach Draz hesitated, then nodded. Ethan picked up the orange weight with both hands. It had some real weight to it, maybe like a heavy backpack. "What's this one?" he asked. 50 standard units, Coach Draz replied. "It's meant for strength training for Taurans." As if on cue, a large bull-like alien stepped forward. He had 4 legs, massive shoulders, and looked like he was made of solid muscle. "Impossible," the Tauran said. "No single person can lift a red weight." Ethan hadn't tried the red ones yet. Before Coach Draz could stop him, he walked over and gripped the red-banded bar. By dinner time, everyone at Celestial Academy had seen the video. Someone had recorded Ethan lifting the red-banded weight, and the footage spread through the school's communication network faster than light speed. Ethan sat alone in the dining hall, picking at his food. The special Earth-compatible meal didn't taste quite right, but that wasn't why he had no appetite. Every few seconds he felt eyes on him, followed by whispers. "Mind if I join you?" Lumi floated down beside Ethan's table, glowing a soft purple. "Please do," Ethan said, grateful for the company. "You're famous now," Lumi said. "The deathworlder who broke gym class." "I didn't break anything," Ethan sighed. "I just lifted a weight that needs power armor for most students to move," Lumi pointed out. "The Taurans are especially upset. They pride themselves on being the strongest species in the academy." As if on cue, a shadow fell across their table. Ethan looked up to see the bull-like alien from gym class standing over them. Up close, he was even more impressive, nearly 7 feet tall, with muscles rippling under his short brown fur. "Human," the Tauran said, his voice deep. "I am Grax, captain of the strength team." Ethan swallowed hard. "Nice to meet you." Is it true your species trains by lifting heavy objects repeatedly just to become stronger? Grax asked. Yes, Ethan nodded. We call it weightlifting. Grax's eyes narrowed. And you do this for fun? Some of us do, Ethan said. Others do it for competition. Grax snorted, a very bull-like sound. I challenge you to a proper test of strength 3 days from now, in the main gymnasium. Before Ethan could respond, Grax walked away, his hooves clicking on the floor. Did he just, Ethan began, challenge you to a duel? Yes. Lumi's glow turned a worried yellow. This is bad. Why? It's just a friendly competition, right? Lumi dimmed slightly. Taurans don't do friendly competition, and now the whole school will be watching. Just then, Ethan's communication device buzzed. It was a message from Professor Zilk. My office. Immediately, Ethan hurried through the halls to the professor's office. Inside, Professor Zilk was not alone. The school's director, a tall crystalline being who shimmered with inner light, stood beside him. Mr. Cole, the director said. I am Director Vex. We need to discuss today's incident. Am I in trouble? Ethan asked. Not exactly, Professor Zilk said. But the school board is concerned about safety. Director Vex nodded, crystals tinkling softly. Some parents have contacted us. They worry that having a being of your physical capabilities could pose risks to other students. I would never hurt anyone, Ethan said quickly. Intentionally, no, Director Vex agreed. But accidents happen. One careless moment from you could seriously injure a more fragile species. Ethan felt his heart sink. Are you asking me to leave? No, Professor Zilk stepped forward. We are asking you to help us find a solution. The exchange program is important for both Earth and the Galactic Union. There is another matter, Director Vex added. A group of Quarren students has asked if you would speak to their cultural studies class. They seem quite fascinated by human physical capabilities. Really? Ethan was surprised. Yes, Professor Zilk said, and I've received 12 different requests from science departments wanting to study your biology. I'm not sure how I feel about being studied, Ethan frowned. The choice is yours, Director Vex said. But may I suggest you consider it? The more other species understand humans, the less they will fear you. As Ethan left the office, his device buzzed again. A message from an unknown student. Some of us think what you did was amazing. Not everyone is afraid. Meeting in study room 12 tonight if you want to come. For the first time since the gym class, Ethan smiled. Maybe things were looking up after all. Lifted it off the rack. The entire class froze. Not a sound could be heard. Even Coach Draz stood with his 4 mouths hanging open. What? Ethan asked, still holding the weight. Did I do something wrong? That, Coach Draz finally said, is 100 standard units. It requires powered assistance for most species. Ethan carefully put the weight back. The silence was broken by the sound of someone's device hitting the floor as they dropped it in shock. Class dismissed, Coach Draz announced. Early. Study room 12 was tucked away in a quiet corner of the academy. Ethan stood outside the door, wondering if he should knock or just go in. Before he could decide, the door slid open. You came, a voice chirped happily. A small alien with silver, feathers, and large eyes waved him in. I'm Pip. Come meet the others. Inside, Ethan found 6 students of different species sitting in a circle. Besides Lumi, he didn't recognize any of them. This is the human, Pip announced. I have a name, Ethan said. It's Ethan. Sorry, Pip ruffled his feathers. We're just excited. None of us have met a deathworlder before. A tall plant-like alien with flowers blooming along her arms spoke next. I'm Fern. We wanted to meet you because we're all different too. Ethan looked around the circle. Now he noticed what Fern meant. Pip was missing one wing. Fern had a slightly withered branch for a leg. Another student who looked like a blue octopus had only 6 tentacles instead of 8. We're the misfits, Lumi explained, floating closer. Students who don't quite fit in with their own species. And we think it's amazing what you did in gym class, Pip added. We want to learn more about humans. For the next hour, Ethan answered their questions. Yes, most humans could run for miles without stopping. No, they couldn't see in ultraviolet light. Yes, they healed from most wounds without medical help. No, they couldn't regrow limbs. What about the challenge from Grax? Asked the blue octopus student who had introduced herself as Zill. Ethan shrugged. I don't want to fight anyone. It's not a fight, Fern explained. It's a strength competition. But Grax has never lost. He's afraid you'll beat him, Pip said. That's why he's gathering his friends to intimidate you. What? Ethan frowned. Lumi pulsed a warning orange. Taurans take pride very seriously. If you beat Grax in front of the school, he'll lose status. But if I lose on purpose, won't that look fake? Ethan asked. The group fell silent, thinking. Maybe there's another way, Zill suggested. What if you showed everyone that different species have different strengths, not just who can lift the heaviest weight? Before they could discuss further, the door slid open with a bang. Grax stood there, flanked by 3 other Taurans. Planning your defeat, human? Grax snorted. Ethan stood up slowly, careful not to make any sudden movements. We're just talking. Grax stepped into the room, his bulk making the space feel much smaller. I hear you're visiting different classes, showing off your deathworld abilities. I'm not showing off, Ethan said. I'm trying to help people understand humans better. One of Grax's friends laughed, a harsh sound. Understanding won't change what you are, a dangerous predator from a killer planet. That's not fair, Fern spoke up. Ethan hasn't hurt anyone. Yet, Grax stamped a hoof. His kind evolved to hunt and kill. It's in his nature. Ethan felt his face growing hot with anger. You don't know anything about my nature. I know enough. Grax stepped closer, towering over Ethan. Deathworlders solve problems with force. That's not true, Ethan said. He was trying to stay calm, but his hands had curled into fists without him realizing. Grax noticed and smiled. See? Already ready to fight. I'm not, Ethan started to say, but Grax suddenly swung his arm, knocking a glass off the table. It flew toward Fern's head. Without thinking, Ethan's hand shot out and caught the glass mere inches from Fern's face. The movement was so fast that even Ethan was surprised. The room went completely silent. Grax and his friends stared at Ethan with wide eyes. Human reflexes, Grax finally said, his voice softer. The stories are true. Ethan carefully put the glass down. I told you I don't. The next morning, Ethan knocked on Professor Zilk's office door. He hadn't slept well, thinking about the challenge and his quick reaction that had scared everyone. Come in, called the professor's gentle voice. Ethan entered and found Professor Zilk sorting through glowing data tablets with 4 of his 6 limbs. Mr. Cole, what can I do for you? Professor Zilk asked, eye stalks swiveling to focus on Ethan. I need help, Ethan said. I don't want to compete against Grax, but I can't back down without looking weak or scared. Professor Zilk set down the tablets. Ah, yes, the challenge. News travels fast in the academy. I was thinking, Ethan continued, what if we changed the competition, made it about more than just who's strongest? Professor Zilk's fur rippled, and what Ethan had learned was a sign of interest. What did you have in mind? What if we created a program where students could experience what it's like to have different physical abilities? Like I could try moving in low gravity like the Lumidari, and others could feel what it's like to have human strength or endurance. Professor Zilk was quiet for a moment, thinking. Then he stood up. Follow me, Mr. Cole, I want to show you something. They walked through parts of the academy Ethan hadn't seen before, ending at a door marked Environmental Labs. Inside was a large room filled with strange equipment. This is where we develop adaptation gear, Professor Zilk explained. Tools that help species survive in environments different from their homeworlds. A scientist working nearby looked up. She had scaled skin and a crest on her head that changed colors as she spoke. Professor, is this the human student? She asked. Yes, Dr. Voss. Mr. Cole has an interesting idea. Ethan explained his thoughts about creating a way for different species to experience each other's physical capabilities. Dr. Voss's crest turned bright yellow. We've been developing similar technology, she said excitedly. Simulation suits that can mimic the physical experience of different species. She picked up what looked like a thin silver bodysuit. This one can simulate the muscle density and gravity experience of various worlds. Could we use these instead of a regular strength competition? Ethan asked hopefully. Professor Zilk nodded slowly. It would be educational rather than confrontational, I approve. But will Grax agree? Let me worry about Grax, Dr. Voss said, her crest now a determined red. I've been his science tutor for 2 years. He respects me. Later that day, Ethan found himself in a simulation chamber wearing one of the silver suits. Dr. Voss stood at a control panel. We're going to start with Vax's homeworld conditions, she explained. 3 times standard gravity, similar to Earth, but with much higher atmospheric pressure. The chamber hummed, and suddenly Ethan felt an enormous weight pressing down on him from all sides. His lungs struggled to expand. His limbs felt impossibly heavy. This is how Vax feel in standard conditions, Ethan gasped out, struggling to remain standing. No, they're adapted to it. Dr. Voss adjusted some controls and the pressure eased slightly. But this is how they've evolved. Their strength comes from constantly fighting this pressure. Ethan managed a few steps, feeling new respect for the stocky, red-skinned aliens like Coach Draz. No wonder they were so compact and powerful. Over the next few hours, Ethan experienced simulations of 5 different species' home environments. The crushing depths of ocean worlds, the wispy, almost non-existent gravity of gas giant moons, the constant vibrations that Quarren evolved with on their tectonically active planet. By the end, Ethan was exhausted but amazed. Each species had evolved incredible adaptations to their environments, adaptations as impressive as human strength and endurance. Do you think this will work? He asked Professor Zilk as they left the lab. It already is working, the professor replied, pointing to a small crowd of students who had gathered to watch through the lab's windows. Among them, Ethan spotted Grax, his expression thoughtful rather than angry. Tomorrow, Professor Zilk said, we invite everyone to try. Want to hurt anyone? I just reacted. Grax backed toward the door. The challenge still stands, deathworlder. 3 days. Then he and his friends were gone. Pip let out a breath. That was amazing, you moved so fast. But Ethan wasn't smiling. He looked at his hand, then at his new friends' nervous faces. I just made things worse, didn't I? He asked. The day of the challenge arrived. But instead of a simple strength contest, the main gymnasium had been transformed. 8 different stations were set up in a circle, each representing a different species' physical abilities and homeworld conditions. Students poured in, curious about the change. Ethan stood with Professor Zilk, Dr. Voss, and Director Vex at the center of the gym. Welcome to the first interspecies adaptation experience, Director Vex announced, crystals glittering under the lights. Today we will all learn what it means to walk in another species' gravity. Grax pushed his way to the front of the crowd. This is not what we agreed on, he said to Ethan. Where is our strength contest? It's still here, Ethan replied. But now everyone can join in and learn something too. Dr. Voss stepped forward. Grax, you'll still compete with Ethan, but first you'll try his world and he'll try yours. Grax's nostrils flared. For a moment, Ethan thought he would refuse. Then the Tauran nodded once. I accept these terms. The event began with demonstrations from volunteers of each species. The Luminari showed how they navigated in near-zero gravity. The Vax demonstrated their pressure resistance. The Quarren showed how they sensed vibrations that other species couldn't feel at all. When it was Earth's turn, Ethan demonstrated something simple: push-ups. He did 20 in quick succession, then explained how humans used repeated motions to build strength. Your turn, he said to Grax, offering him a simulation suit set to Earth conditions. With everyone watching, Grax put on the suit. Dr. Voss activated it, and immediately Grax's eyes widened. The suit made him feel Earth's gravity and atmosphere. "It's so heavy," Grax said, surprise in his voice. He tried to do a push-up but struggled to lower himself halfway. After 5 stations, students from different species were laughing together, amazed at how differently they all experienced the world. Ethan found himself helping a group of Florians understand how humans use their dense muscles for jumping, while Lumi explained to a fascinated group how it felt to float all the time. But not everyone was enjoying the event. Ethan noticed a group of older students huddled near the control panel for the simulation suits. They looked nervous and kept glancing around. "Something's wrong," Ethan said to Lumi, who was floating nearby. Before Lumi could respond, the lights flickered. One of the simulation chambers, the high-gravity one where Grax was currently trying Earth conditions, began to glow red. "Emergency!" Dr. Voss shouted. "The gravity simulator is overloading!" Ethan rushed to the control panel. The students who had been there were gone. On the screen he could see that someone had bypassed the safety protocols. The gravity in Grax's chamber was increasing rapidly, much higher than Earth levels. "Shut it down," Professor Zilk called. "I can't," Dr. Voss replied, her crest pale with fear. "The override is locked. In 30 seconds, the gravity will crush him." "The emergency release is inside the chamber," one of the technicians said. "But no one can move in that gravity." Ethan looked through the chamber window. Grax was on his knees, struggling to breathe as the artificial gravity pressed down on him. "I can," Ethan said. Before anyone could stop him, he opened the chamber door and stepped inside. Immediately, the weight hit him like a wall. It felt like carrying 3 or 4 people on his back. Each step was agony, but Ethan kept moving. One step, another. The control panel was 10 feet away. Grax stared at him, unable to speak as the pressure increased. 5 feet. Ethan's legs burned with effort. 3 feet. He could barely stand. With one final lunge, Ethan reached the panel and slammed the emergency stop button. The gravity slowly returned to normal, and Ethan collapsed to his knees, gasping for breath. News of the incident spread quickly. By the next day, the entire Galactic Union knew about the human student who had braved crushing gravity to save a Tauran. The school's security had identified the students who tampered with the controls, a small group who feared human influence. In galactic society, "They will be disciplined," Director Vex told Ethan during a special assembly. "Their actions violated our most sacred value, respect for all life forms." The assembly hall was filled with students from every species. Ethan sat in the front row, still sore from his ordeal in the high-gravity chamber. Beside him sat Grax, his usual proud stance softened somewhat. "Yesterday was meant to be a competition," Director Vex continued. "Instead, it became a lesson, in both the worst and best of interspecies relations." After the assembly, Ethan was surprised to see a news crew waiting to interview him. A tall, insect-like reporter approached with a floating camera. "Ethan Cole, you're now being called the hero of Celestial Academy. What does that feel like?" Ethan blinked, uncomfortable with the attention. "I just did what anyone would do." "But not anyone could have done it," the reporter pressed. "Only a deathworlder had the physical capability to enter that chamber." Before Ethan could respond, Grax stepped forward. "You're wrong," he said. "It wasn't just his strength. Many species have different kinds of strength. What he showed was courage." Reporter's antennae twitched with surprise. "And you are?" "Grax of Taurus Prime," he said. "The one he saved." That evening, Ethan received a message from Earth. It was from the Human Diplomatic Office. They had seen the news reports and wanted to let him know that, thanks to his actions, 5 more human students had been approved to join Celestial Academy next semester. "You're not going to be the only human anymore," Lumi said, glowing with happiness when Ethan shared the news. "I hope they're ready," Ethan smiled. "It's not easy, being a deathworlder." A week later, the Interspecies Athletic Club held its first official meeting. Students from all species gathered in the gymnasium, eager to learn from each other. Ethan was surprised to see Grax there, standing somewhat apart from the others. "I didn't expect you to join," Ethan said. Grax shrugged his massive shoulders. "I want to understand how you think, how you train. Your species has interesting methods." Together, they organized the club into teams, each led by a student from a different world. Ethan taught a group how to play basketball, modifying the rules to account for different physical abilities. Lumi taught patterns of movement for low-gravity environments. Grax demonstrated Toran strength techniques. At the end of the session, Professor Zilk approached Ethan with a small package. "This arrived for you today," he said. Inside was a new Academy uniform with a special patch showing Earth, with the words Class 12 Deathworld beneath it. "The Academy Board approved it," Professor Zilk explained. "They thought you might wear it with pride." Ethan looked at the patch, thinking about what it meant. A few weeks ago, deathworlder had seemed like an insult. Now he understood it was simply a fact, a different kind of adaptation. On his way back to his room, Ethan passed a group of younger students who watched him with wide eyes. "Is it true you can lift a Toran with one arm?" one of them asked. Ethan laughed. "No, that's just a rumor. Humans are strong, but we have limits too." "Will you tell us about Earth?" another student asked. "Is it really covered in dangerous animals?" "Some parts are," Ethan said. "But it's also full of beauty. Mountains, oceans, forests." The students followed him, asking questions about his home world. There was no fear in their eyes now, only curiosity. Later, as he wrote in his journal about the day, Ethan realized something important. The term deathworlder wasn't going to change, but its meaning could. Not a creature to be feared, but a being adapted to challenge. Not a threat, but a different kind of strength. And when the new human students arrived next semester, he would be there to welcome them, ready to show them that in the vastness of space, every adaptation had its place. When he looked up, Grax was staring at him with something new in his eyes, not fear, not anger, respect. "You saved me," Grax said. "Why?" "Because," Ethan panted, "that's what humans do.